What's going on, people? What's really good? It's your boy Marvlat, and this is the Nerds in the Hood. Folks, we gotta talk about that Love Island reunion that popped off last night. It was interesting. It was interesting. I think one thing I want to say about it off the rip before I even go any further is that it definitely was an improvement from last season. Um, if you remember in 2024, last season's joint, it was more like Cats was they was doing a lot, and they was trying to cater to their sponsors. They was doing a lot of commercials that didn't need to be. I still am like, I'm still feeling a type of way over that Pizza Hut commercial that they did when they was just like randomly eating Pizza Hut for no reason. Like nobody needed that. And it's not a knock to Pizza Hut. It's just saying like we didn't care. So we didn't need stuff like that last year. We didn't need random interactions backstage. We didn't need that. And they still did their random, they didn't even really do random interactions this year. They kind of just shot to people's reactions when they were sitting backstage. But this time they were watching what they were watching the actual programming recording and going, oh, okay, they said that? Word? Like that's cool. That's okay. But it was a very big upgrade from last year. So I'm really glad that Peacock and all the people in charge of Love Island was like, nah, we need to do this right. This year's, and see, I got my Love Island shirt on. I told you, love all things Love Island. I'm wearing my Love Island Villa shirt. You know what I'm saying? I will wear this to the Villa if I ever went. I have no reason to go right now, but if I ever did, this would be one of the shirts I bring. And when I get when I get eliminated, I'm gonna wear this shirt. Anyway, so my thing was, first off, shout out to Andy Cohen. I know last year we had Ariana Madix and she did what she could. But Andy Cohen was more of the one. He's been in these situations before. He's done reunions before with different reality shows. This was more of what we needed. He stepped in, and I hope that he does this again next year and the year after until he doesn't want to or whatever. But he just stepped in and asked all the right things. He asked the questions. Fix my mic as usual. He asked all the questions that needed to be asked. Okay. Um, Sorry. He basically was just focusing on like, you're not going to dance around this one. But shout out to Huda because she danced around most of the questions this man asked. It was crazy. Most of the questions that this man asked, she was just like switching it up, including my personal favorite, which was, can you tell us about your dating life? I can't. Why not? No, she didn't even ask that. I think Ariana asked that. And then she danced around it. And your man was like, nah, you're not going to just do that. And she was like, legally, you can't talk about it. And she's like, yeah, because Netflix, no, legally, I can't. And he's like, Netflix? Netflix is making sure you can't talk about it. And he's like, you're on the number one streaming show of the summer. Like, tell Netflix that, which was a nice way of saying, fuck out of here. What you mean, baby? This is Love Island. We do this out here. You better talk about it. Which also, that was stupid on her part because I think she was trying to show off the fact that she's dating a dude that's on a Netflix show, I'm assuming, or just some person that's like doing big things on Netflix. Who knows? But she could have easily just said, um, you know, she either could have just really played coy and said, a woman, I don't kiss and tell, or she could have said, like, hey, listen, I really don't feel comfortable talking about that right now. And they would have been, they would have pushed their buttons a little bit, but they would have been cool about it. Or they would have been like, oh, I'm seeing people, I'm just chilling. Something like that. Boy, you didn't have to make it illegal. Like, I think she tried to throw in those illegal things so they could stop, but they just kept pressing the issue, and it just made her sound, it didn't make her sound stupid, but it just made her look like, what? Like, lady, what? Like, that's how people felt when they heard her say that. It was just like, what are you talking about, fam? Like, ew. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so done with you. Chris was basically most of the world when she said all that, and your man just rolled his eyes and was just over it. We were over it. Huda, for anybody who was Team Huda before the reunion, you might have switched sides by the end of this reunion. I never hated this woman. I never had a reason to hate this woman. I always thought she was cool. I mean, yeah, mentally there was who knows. But I told y'all when I did my reunion video that you can check out on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. One of the things I noticed was that she loves hard. When people love hard, they, you know, they go out of their way to do things. I'm one of those people. I love hard. When I find somebody that makes me want to give my all and my heart to them, I'm gonna do that. You feel me? So I think for her it was a similar situation where she found somebody in Jeremiah and then she found somebody in Chris where she felt like she wanted to give her all. But when you watch the reunion, you don't see that same person. You don't see that same person that was going through a lot of it. You saw a person, it was almost as if she was a woman scorned and she felt like getting revenge. But what was you getting revenge on? Who was you getting revenge on? Jeremiah didn't go out here and like, yeah, he went on podcasts and talked this talk, but he didn't really go out here and like put salt on her name. He was more talking about what Ace did and what Nick and them did and how he got wrongfully eliminated, which we also found out that even if the Islanders didn't eliminate him, he was going to get eliminated regardless. So it was kind of a nice way of being like, yeah, you can't really be mad at us, fam. You was going to go either way. So at the end of the day, he didn't come at her crazy. Chris didn't come at her crazy. Chris was also mad because she went on podcast and trashed his name. Oh, he had a wandering eye. He was bragging about sleeping with me and this, and he was wilding. And Chris was like, I don't even know where this came from. Why is she talking about me like this? And when they say, "Yo, are y'all gonna be cool?" He was like, "No, I don't want to be friends with her." Like, and he did the real black Christian thing, which was like, I forgive her, but we don't gotta be friends, which is cool. He's willing to forgive, he's willing to move on, but he's also like, yo, you don't gotta call me, you don't gotta check up on me, we don't gotta kick it. You know what I mean? I don't want to kick it with you, skate with you, none of that. He's like, we passed that now. You had your chance to link me and be like, y'all was wilding. And that's the craziest thing about these reunions. They didn't learn from last season. Last season, I forgot who it was, but it was like random contestants that got eliminated. They went on podcasts and trashed the final group of women and men too. And Janae pulled the transcripts from different podcasts, like, yo, remember when you said this? Remember when you said this? Remember when you said this? And all of them was like, well, I didn't do all that, Janae. I didn't do all that. So imagine Coco's surprise when she's like, yo, Landra, I linked you to be like, yo, we good. Like, what you talking about? And Landra did have a point. You went on a public platform that was going to be played out to the whole world and was just like, yeah, well, they was kind of standoffish. They was kind of this, they was kind of that. And then try to hit her up later, like, nah, that's not what I meant. They took everything out of context. But you chose to go on there and do that. A wise woman always tells me, you made a choice. You made a choice. So people choose to do what they do, whether it's good or bad. So you chose to go on people's podcasts for the clout, and you knew that Love Island was trending, is going to be trending all summer, because not only are you getting the trending from Love Island USA, you're also getting the trending from Love Island UK, because both of them come on around the same time in the summer. So you ride in that train, you ride in that clout train until your stop comes up and you going on these podcasts and you airing out information that's mostly not true. So what you think they're gonna do when they pull up on you, fam? They're gonna press you and you folded. You tried to keep your cool, Coco. I respect it. You was like, oh yeah, nah, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. They took it out of context. Hey yo. They was like, and Landry was like, I'm not falling for that. Shelly too. And I think as black women, they tried to be cool with her, but she threw them under the bus. So they was like, yo, fam, we can't kick it with you now. Now you chose to throw that away. So the same goes for Huda. They felt like there was a point where they wanted to be cool with Huda outside of the villa. And at the end of the day, they couldn't be cool with Huda outside of the villa. Because why? Because she went and trashed their name. When Alandria was getting her name dragged across the internet and Shelly was getting her name dragged across the internet, they went and asked Huda to tell her fans to stop bothering them. Tell them to ease up off me now. Get their foot off my neck. And Huda said, yeah, I got you. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And Huda went and did whatever she needed to do and was like, that's priority number six. I'm focusing on priority number one, which is me. And I get that. Do you treat yourself, take care of yourself, but don't forget your friends, right? Olandria and Shelly were your friends. You say you're a girl's girl. When these girls needed your help, you was nowhere to be found. They called you Aang, baby, because you was that Avatar vibes. You left when the going got tough. And then you tried to come back and act all peaceful. And they was like, nah, 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 nah. We passed that now. So again, I do 100% feel where these women were coming from. It's not fair. It was not fair, especially as black women. If you get, Alandria said her face was on George Floyd, which is all types of out of pocketness. That is out of pocket to the max. So I wasn't feeling that. And that made me lose a lot of respect for her because I was sitting here on that last video kind of defending her low key. But then, you could defend somebody for their love and judgment of how they choose to love. But I wouldn't defend somebody on their actions as a person. And she showed no loyalty to those women. Granted, when they did that thing where Huda was she had to what was it? Oh, the heart rate challenge, right? When it was all of those situations and her trying to say, yeah, even the heart rate challenge was out of pocket. Yo, nobody knows why she did what she did to Ace. It was out of control. I don't know if she was doing that to Ace to show like you could have had all of this, or she was doing that to Ace to really be petty and say, I got your heart rate up the most. But you can't use the excuse of it's just a challenge for that one. That's not something that you use the excuse of, oh, it's just a challenge. That was out of control. Because all she could have did was she could have just danced on him. She probably could have threw the cheeks in his face, and everybody would have been like, cool, you rode that man, and then threw the cheeks in his face, which, yeah, a lot of us dudes are sitting there like, God damn. But at the end of the day, it was also like, damn, Shelly, she wilding. She was wilding. It was a bit, and now we see why Landria said it was a bit much. It was a bit much. Yo, your homegirl Shelly, she's dating Ace, and for fun, for the fun of a challenge, you playfully like air lick his private parts, and then you throw the cheeks in his face on the floor. Where they do that at, fam? What kind of hall pass is this? So I was like, that was a little wilding. Granted, Chris was wilding too, but he didn't do what she did. He stopped at a certain point. So they went a little hard for the sake of getting Ace's heart rate up. And at the end of the day, she lost a friend out of it. Yeah, she was innocent for saying, oh, I'm trying to get Chris, you trying to get Chris. I'll bring him back. Let's see what happens. Okay, fine. You're innocent for that. But you still, at the end of the day, you're still a bad friend for that. I'm just being real. Same, and Nick proved he was a good friend, for example, even though he he left Sierra, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's messed up that he just went to Alandria. He always wanted Alandria." No, he probably did, and he did hint at it a lot. But at the end of the day, Sierra left the villa. He had two options at that point. It was stay in the villa and explore somebody else, or leave the villa and go be with Sierra. Granted, if he really did like Sierra, he should have went with Sierra. And he shouldn't have worried about the allegations going against it. Well, it wasn't even allegations. He shouldn't have worried about what she was, the racist stuff that happened. He should have just been like, all right, I'm gonna give this a try. I'm just gonna shoot for the stars and I'll defend you every chance I get. He should have did that and he didn't. All right, fine. So he moved on. He's not grimy for that. It's just that's what he chose to do. So here we are, in this place where your man's is just trying something new with Alandra, and it ended up working. Is what it is. Sierra moved on. She trashed Nick. She was supposed to. She was rightfully so. And for those of people, and then he proved his innocence by telling Jeremiah, I never voted for you. I voted for Austin. And what happened was I lost by majority vote, which was true. They showed in the video, yo, it should be Jeremiah. Give him another chance. Austin don't got no girl right now. He should go home. And then they were like, they kept looking at Nick, and Nick said, it looks like majority rules here. because Taylor wanted Jeremiah to go home and Ace wanted Jeremiah to go home. And it was only three of them choosing to vote. So at the end of the day, that really only leaves you with 2-on-1. And Nick knew at that moment, no matter what I say, y'all two already got y'all mom made up. All right. So he's out of here. I hate to say it. He is out of here. So it sucks, but that's what happened. And Jeremiah was a better person. And I love the fact that he went on there and he aired out his grievances. And I don't know if they're gonna be friends or not, but he aired out his grievances to let him know, like, yo, y'all was wilding, bro. Y'all supposed to be my friends, and y'all was wilding. Y'all was dissing me. Y'all was disrespecting me. Like, y'all didn't come to me on some craziness, and y'all was wilding for that. Another person I lost respect for was Austin. Oh man, you went out like a sucker. Everybody was kind of cool with you. You were defending Jeremiah a little bit when he was rightfully so. And then you turned around, you couldn't even secure the bag with homegirl when you left. She dished you on the reunion, and then you sat there and looked kind of like just a goofball on that reunion. Ariana asked you a question. He was like, "I'm sorry, I zoned out for a minute. I don't know what happened." To be fair, I did hear from Andy Cohen and Ariana Madix and a lot of other people, they were recording for a very long time. It was hours and hours and hours of recording. So there is a chance that at some point his brain probably just went out real quick. That happens. You could be doing something for a long time and your brain just goes, you have a brain fart. He might have just had a brain fart. It happens. But be that as it may, it still made him look foolish and it was kind of funny. But it also just made him look like, yo, bro, sometimes I don't think you know what you're talking about. So it made me lose some respect for him. One person I didn't lose respect for, but it still kind of was neutral, was Ace. Because, boy, that man came dressed up like he was trying to, Jigga, Kelly, not guilty. I ain't trying to play the race card. Black people don't always go to court. But he did look like he was going to court. He was trying to beat that case. My man looked like a TikTok civil rights leader. He looked like he was going out there and he was trying to beat racism through views. Like, I am not making this up. My man had his wave spinning. He had the Malcolm X frames. My man had we shall overcome suit. And it just looked crazy. It looked crazy. He didn't look whack. It's just, and he didn't really say a lot of bad things this time. I think he was just more in the seat of like, this is on y'all. This is not on me. This is on y'all. This is not on me. And we are just here. We are chilling. One thing I always notice about these reunion shows, um, especially in the last one, like last season and this season, they don't focus so much on the champion. They focus more on the drama around it. Like, and I mean that in the sense of like last season, Serena and Cordell had their ups and downs, but they didn't really focus too much on it. They kind of highlighted it a little to be like, oh yeah, you won. But they didn't focus too much on like having conversations with them. They focused on everything around it. Leah, Liv, Kayla, Aaron, everything around that. And then when it was this year, they focused a little bit on Brian because he made a mistake. They focused a little bit on Amaya, but the rest was everybody else. Ace tried to come for Amaya, and then Amaya shut him down quick. Ace tried to be like, yo, you went on a TikTok joint and you made fun of me and you want to talk about bullying. And she was like, first off, I definitely linked you after that and told you that I didn't even realize that they were doing that. And I told you I handled it. And he was like, okay. So she realized, like, she shut that down. She's like, you're not gonna throw me under the bus, fam. I did my time. I won my game. You leave me alone. Um, and it's crazy because we still had to look back. Even when I look back at that clip, I realized when they showed the clip of the girls choosing between Amaya, Hannah, and somebody else. Anyway, it was so interesting because at the end of the day, if they chose Amaya, Amaya wouldn't have won. Because they saved Amaya, Amaya eventually won the whole thing. So that was cool. That was cool when you look back at it, like, yo, they died, they saved her initially. But I really did enjoy this reunion. Ariana didn't have to do much. She just had to navigate. But Andy, what I loved again was that he was the enforcer. Like, now you're not going to just slide through that. Like, you're not just going to say that and then try to move on. You're not going to speed through that, fam. He did that with Huda so many times, and I kept laughing. He was like, "Yo, you changed after a month?" It's just like, yo, and he didn't push the envelope to the point where the Islanders were like pissed off at him or yelling at him or coming back at him. He just instigated and pushed the envelope enough where we got some type of answers from some people, and we watched a lot of other people, like Ace always says, not stand on business. And that's why I said I can't be mad at Ace, because he was right. He came there, aired out his grievances. Jeremiah came and aired out his grievances. Um, Shelly and Orlandria, they aired out their grievances. But a lot of other people who had grievances either got checked at the door right there, or they just chose to not deal with it because they knew that they were probably going to get embarrassed. And Huda really, to me, embarrassed herself, because there was a couple of times where she was right, but there was way more times where she was wrong. And I feel like she should have tried to defend herself better, but she should have went on these podcasts and made it seem like everybody was against her and she was bullied and victimized, and she wasn't. She made friends on there. People had her back. What they just didn't like, which nobody likes, is being around a toxic relationship for a long period of time. There is nobody that likes that. There's nobody that likes to sit there and go, what I'm gonna do today and watch these people argue again. You're on a peaceful villa outside of the United States. You're chilling. You can see the beach. You can see the ocean. You're sitting in a pool. You're laying on a day bed. You're just enjoying life, and all you hear is "F him." He's an effing piece of it, and you're just like, "Oh, again, we're doing this again." So I get that. Nobody wants to go through that, but they still had your back in some capacity. And when it was time to end, they just was like, yeah, it's time for this to end. You guys have been trying this too many times. It's over. And then when you went to Chris, Shorty gave you Chris eventually. She was like, you know what? I'm just going to stay with Ace. You can do your thing with Chris. And you had Chris. And somehow that got broken up too. And they still had your back. And you left the villa and you trashed a good amount of people that you could. So I'm not gonna say I don't respect Huda at all, but I am gonna say I did lose some respect for Huda. So this was a very interesting reunion. It was an upgrade to the net, what could be future seasons. They need to keep Andy Cohen on there. He needs to keep pushing the narrative whenever he gets a chance on there and pushing the envelope. Ariana Madix is cementing herself as the host of this. No disrespect to Sarah Hyland. She walks so Ariana could run. But at the end of the day, this was an improvement. We need to keep it like this. Less of those BS random reactions, less of those BS random interactions, and no stupid sponsorship commercials. And maybe this could lead to a Beyond the Villa for this season. Although season 6 is the GOATs, they might just hold that down. But you can always do it again for a season 7 and see what's going on with Amaya and Ace and everybody else if they choose to become friends. I don't know. This is kind of a very tainted, fractured situation compared to season 6. Yes, we're only focusing on certain people in season 6. I don't know if I can see that with season 7. And for those people who sat there and said, well, I'm surprised Sierra didn't show up or say anything. I'm surprised that your Lissa chick or whatever her name was didn't show up and say anything. Would you? Would you? You were taken out of the villa randomly because they found out that you did some racist stuff, whether it was racist or borderline racist. You did some racist stuff on your social media and they could not condone, and they were not going to go down that ship with you. That ship was not sinking with them on it. Only you. And you think that these two women was going to come back to the reunion? Furthermore, you thought Peacock was going to let them come back? Hell no. No disrespect to those two women, but yeah, they wasn't going to be on this reunion. Wasn't. And I hate to see that they made those mistakes at such a young age, but whatever, they'll bounce back. Sierra's still trying. So hopefully their redemption tour is better than other people's, but whatever. They can just try. So all in all, again, good reunion. Can't wait to see which members of this season show up on Love Island Games. And yeah, just looking forward to what else comes, if there's another Beyond the Villa for them or whatever the case may be. But this wraps up a Love Island USA summer. Can't wait till next season. Um, Hopefully they raise the stakes even higher and it's just more fun. Anyway, you guys can follow me on all social media using the link tree in the description below. I'll catch y'all next time on another edition of the Nerds in the Hood. I have 30 minutes to leave the villa, so I'm gonna go pack my things. Peace.